to have both Governor Jared Polis and Republican challenger Heidi Ganahl both competing for the governor's seat here moving forward. I also want to take this opportunity to introduce our panelists, our Allison Zimmerman from News 5, a News 5 anchor and political specialist. Also Ernest Lunning, a reporter with Colorado Politics, and I want to also thank Luigi Del Puerto, an editor with Colorado Politics, for his contribution for us developing our rundown, our questions here for our candidates this evening. I wanted to mention to our online audience this evening that we did a coin flip about an hour ago to determine who would go first and second, both for the opening statement and the closing statement. And for the opening statement, 2 minutes each. Ms. Ganahl will go first, Governor Polis will go second. So we have a long way to go and a short time to get there. So let's begin with the opening statements from Heidi Ganahl. Ms. Ganahl, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. You know, I grew up here, right up the road in Monument. I love El Paso County, and I really love Colorado. I'm a fighter. I lost my young husband here in a plane crash in the Springs at age 27. I fought to get my company through the Great Recession in 2008, and 2 years ago I survived major brain surgery. To come back each time, I've poured my heart into giving back. I'm a proven leader. I built Camp Bow Wow, the country's largest pet care franchise, from scratch to a $100 million brand serving millions of dogs, and the Bow Wow Buddies Foundation that founded over 10,000 rescue pups homes. Most proud of that. I've launched charities for women and kids, and at the University of Colorado, as your regent, I oversee a $5 billion budget and the third largest employer in the state. I'm proud of my record. I'm a problem solver, an outsider, not a politician. Now I want to fix Colorado. Tonight, Jared will paint himself as the reality-based candidate. Well, reality is what John and Maria faced when Kendrick, their beautiful son, died a hero in a school shooting. Reality is what the family of 27-year-old Dylan Vakoff faced after he was killed in the line of duty last month. And reality is what 16-year-old Hannah's mom, Mickey, faces every day after losing her daughter to fentanyl poisoning. Jared's bad policies are killing our kids. When you vote, hold him accountable. We need a new governor, and tonight I hope to earn your vote. I'm excited to be your first mom in the governor's mansion, the first woman governor in Colorado. Let's work together to make it affordable here again, to make it safe again. Let's fix our schools and address our child's mental health crisis. I love this state, and I will pour my heart into turning it around for all of you. Thank you.
All right, please. Governor Polis, you have 2 minutes. Good evening.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Allison and Ernest, KOAA, the Gazette, El Pomar Foundation, most of all of you. I understand that when they opened up the opportunity to attend, they filled up all 200 seats before my opponent and I could even email our list, which is
That's
great.
right.
So 200 real, civically minded Coloradans here. Thank you for being here. You know, 4 years ago, I ran for governor of Colorado with big ideas. We said we were going to get universal full-day kindergarten, free for every kid done, preschool free for every kid. I stand before you 4 years later, we got it done. We said we would lower the cost of health care. We reduced the cost by more than 20% in the exchange. We took on the pharmaceutical industry to cap the cost of insulin and negotiate for prescription drug rates. A lot more work to do. And we said that we would make Colorado an even more amazing place, protecting what keeps Colorado special. We've opened additional state parks and protected our land and our water. You know that I'll always do what's right for Colorado. And when I first announced my campaign in Pueblo, Colorado 4 years ago, a lot of people said, those are great ideas, show us you can get it done. I stand before you now saying what I'm talking about today aren't just words, we have a plan to get it done. So what am I going to do for you in the next 4 years if I have the honor of serving as your governor? One, we've overcome so much. We'll keep Colorado moving forward, one of the strongest economies in the nation, growing good jobs, making sure that people have access to all the great opportunities the private sector has to offer. 2, we're going to tackle the high cost of housing. We're going to make sure that we can have more housing close to where jobs are, reducing commuting time and traffic and lowering costs. And 3, we're going to make Colorado one of the 10 safest states in the country with investment in more and better policing, with tougher penalties, and preventing crime before it happens. I look forward to discussing these issues tonight, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you, Governor. Okay. Let's move on to our question. Our first question is directed to Ms. Ganal from Ernest Lunning. Ernest, go ahead.
Regent Ganal and Governor Polis, thank you for participating. From the folks who signed up to come tonight, we had a number of submissions for questions, and this is one that we heard a lot of. It was around this question. Colorado's governors over the years have talked about what they call the Colorado way, reaching across the aisle to get things done with members of all parties. I'd like to know if there's anything, Regent Ganal, that your opponent has done or proposed that you think is a good idea and that you'll implement if elected.
Well, thank you, Ernest. I do think we agree that school choice is very important, and I applaud Governor Polis for opening a charter school early on many years ago. I am so passionate about getting our kids back on track and making sure they can read. 60% of our children in Colorado cannot read at grade level. 95% of African American and Hispanic kids in Denver cannot read at grade level. Our kids are facing a mental health crisis. Skyrocketing suicide, drug addiction rates are some of the highest in the nation for our children here. That's why I say I'm a mom on a mission. I have 4 beautiful kids. I have Jack and Jenna, who are 10, they're twins, a 13-year-old Holly, and Tori, who's 27, who's in the audience. And nothing is more important to me than protecting them, protecting their ability to stay here and live and raise my grandkids here, my granddogs too. I just want to make sure that we fix these huge problems that we're facing right now, like skyrocketing crime, out of control inflation, and most of all, make sure our kids get back on track. So how do we do that? Well, we go all in on school choice. We don't just talk about it. We don't just nibble around the edges. We actually approve charter schools. I tried to get a charter school open in Jared's backyard up in Boulder County. I had 700 kids signed up for a classical education charter school, and it was turned down. And we were basically run out of town because they didn't agree with the values of our school that we were trying to open. And by the way, they have 3 schools now, and they're some of the most successful in the state. So it's a shame that students didn't get the chance in Boulder, right down the road from where Jared's kids go to school, to have the same opportunity that his did. And I want to make sure that every parent in Colorado has access to the funding. I want to make sure that funding follows the families so that kids can make different, or parents can make different choices for their kids, and that they can learn how to read and be successful and have a great life here in Colorado.
Thank you. Governor Polis, again, the question, the Colorado way. What do you have to say about what Ms. Ganal has done, successes, and what do you look forward to working across the aisle to make progress on certain issues?
You know, when I was first elected 4 years ago, my first call to a member of the state legislature was to Representative Jim Wilson, Republican from Salida, former superintendent. We have Representative Snyder, Representative Exum here with us today. Sorry it wasn't to you, Representative Exum, but it was to Representative Jim Wilson, who you served with. And it was about, he'd been a longtime champion of, 10 seconds, my goodness. I thought I had the...
It was I'm sorry, I was directing the question to him. I'm sorry, that was 2 minutes. Forgive me, Governor,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Okay, so just wanted to make sure that, and I talked to Jim Wilson, who'd been a longtime champion of full-day kindergarten. I said, Jim, let's work together. And for our marquee initiative, Free Universal Kindergarten, we had a Republican sponsor in the House that got it done. 93% of the bills that I signed had Republican and Democratic support. I'm somebody that looks for good ideas. I have passion for good ideas that can make our state better. From the left, from the right, from the center, from up, from down. I don't believe that either party has a monopoly on good ideas, or any ideology owns the market on good ideas. We need to make sure that we encourage creativity and innovation. I applaud that my opponent also, as I have, has helped start a charter school. I also praise the intent behind her work to abolish the state income tax on Colorado. We talk about this as well. We'll talk about this later. Her math doesn't work. The plan doesn't work.
Yes, it does.
It would cut slash funding
Works
for
well.
law enforcement, slash funding for our schools, and raise property taxes.
No, it doesn't.
But again, I think it's great that both candidates are talking about how we can reduce the income tax. That's a good thing for Colorado. It's the Colorado way. The income tax hurts productivity. If we can reduce it, if we can phase it out, that's a very good discussion to have, and I'm happy to have it with Republicans and Democrats across the state.
30 seconds, Ms. Ganal, go ahead.
Actually, the Independence Institute last week came out with a deep dive on my zero income tax plan and said the numbers absolutely work. And it's very exciting and ambitious that Colorado might join 8 or 9 other states that are some of the most prosperous in the nation that have zero income tax. And we do not have to defund any specific program or service to do that. The plan's on the website. I know I only have a few seconds left and we can talk more about it later, but I'm about big, bold ideas and I want to put more money back into the pockets of the people of Colorado.
Governor, would you like to add 30 seconds?
I would just say it's a great discussion to have. We have to make sure the numbers work. This is very serious policy for the state. We don't want to increase class size, decrease teacher pay, defund corrections, or defund the state patrol. But again, how we can have a tax code that is more competitive and relieves the burden from everyday Coloradans and puts controls on how fast property taxes can grow, cut the income tax. I look forward to working with Republicans and Democrats, and not just Republicans and Democrats, also the voters of Colorado.
We're going to pick right up on that. And Allison, you have the next question, and it is about the economy and affordability. This is directed to Governor Polis first. Allison, go ahead. And Governor, you have 2 minutes.
Right, Governor Polis, in 2019, you called for support of Prop CC, which would have eliminated Tabor refunds. This year, you approved moving up when Coloradans receive Tabor refund checks. Do you believe Tabor should still be in place? Why or why not?
I've always been in the mend it, don't end it camp for Tabor. What does that mean? First of all, I think it's great that voters are the only folks who can approve any increase in the tax. I also think it's great that we have a citizens initiative process that can propose tax cuts, and I've supported them in the past as well. We were able to deliver on the largest property tax cut in the history of Colorado, $700 million, thanks to the work of Representative Snyder, Representative Exum, other members of the legislature, and yes, move up the Tabor refund about 9-10 months earlier than it would have been, so people got it in their pockets when they needed it. But look, it doesn't end there. We also wanted to make sure that we reduce costs across the board. That's why in Colorado, folks are not going to pay taxes on diapers or feminine hygiene products going forward, because those are necessities just like we don't tax groceries. It's why the cost of a state park pass is coming down next year from $84 to $29. It's why we have free preschool and kindergarten, saving families thousands of dollars for their kids. It's why we've made progress on health care to save people money who buy their insurance in the exchange. That's folks who don't get it through their work, and why there's a lot more work ahead to continue to save people money on prescription drugs. Capping the out-of-pocket costs on insulin was a good first step. So what we need is a comprehensive approach that puts the people of Colorado first, saying, what are your costs, and how do we save you money and reduce costs in every single way that we can as a state?
30 seconds, Ms. Ganal, if you'd like to respond to anything he just said in regard to that question.
Yeah, so I led an initiative to protect Tabor when Jared Polis was against Tabor a few years ago, and I strongly believe it's in the best interest of the voters of Colorado to approve new taxes. They've put all kinds of fees in place. In fact, Jared has approved 85 new taxes and fees through various legislation that's been passed. But the most onerous thing he's done is call Tabor refunds the Colorado cashback and lie to the Colorado voters about what it is. It's their money. It's their dollars. He gave it back as an election stunt.
All right, Allison has another question. This is for Ms. Ganal. Allison, go ahead.
Regent Ganal, your plan to reduce the state income tax includes shrinking the size of state government. What programs or services do you plan on reducing funding to or eliminating to make this happen?
Well, we'll start with undoing a lot of what Jared has done. He's grown the size of government by 23% in the last few years. He's added 4,000 new full-time employees and basically just made it more onerous to start a business, run a business, which is evidenced by 27% more small businesses closing in the first half of this year. So what will I do? I will trust the people of Colorado to make good decisions for their lives, their businesses, their families. I'll do everything I can to put more money back into their pockets by going to zero income tax. We'll lower the size of government by undoing a lot of the growth he did, but also by putting in a hiring freeze and making sure that there's no fraud and waste by doing an audit. We'll also make sure that the government employees and the staff and the agencies are focused on the things that are going to make it easier to live, work, and raise a family here in Colorado and not make it punitive to be a job creator or to be a parent that wants to send their kid to a certain school. So it's all about trusting the people of Colorado to make good decisions for their lives, their business, and their family. Now, on zero income tax, the other thing we're going to do is get our oil and gas industry back to work. We produce some of the cleanest energy here on the planet in Colorado. If you want clean air, clean land, clean water, then we should produce natural gas here in Colorado. And he has decimated the oil and gas industry here. It's been devastating to Colorado. It's cost us about $200 million in revenue, so that's one way we can refill the coffers. We've got to create clean energy here where we know we do it well instead of looking towards Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or Russia or Iran. Let's produce oil and gas here, put people back to work, and make sure those dollars get back into the schools where they help our kids learn how to read.
Governor, you have 30-second rebuttal if you wish.
Working with the state legislature, we made it $1 to start a new business in Colorado. And now a quarter into that, new business starts are up 18%. There is no way for my opponent to implement her tax scheme without slashing funding for schools, slashing funding for law enforcement, and forcing local governments to raise property taxes. And this is not an ideological thing, because I support the overall goal. It's simple math. I believe in math. I believe in objective truth. You've got to make the numbers work.
I give Ms. Ganal a minute to respond about slashing and supplementing. Go ahead and respond. You have 1 minute.
There is no slashing in my plan. It's all laid out on the website. The Independence Institute did a deep dive and said the numbers work without slashing anything. In fact, the very first dollar I spend will be about public safety. I will not ever defund law enforcement. My goodness, I have made my campaign all about getting tough on crime and giving law enforcement the tools and resources they need to do their job. Now, also, we have got to make sure that we fund our schools, but $250,000 on average goes to a classroom in Colorado. Only $50,000 of that goes to teachers. We've got to give teachers higher pay. We've got to make sure the dollars stay in the classroom and don't go to administrators, which have skyrocketed in K through 12 and in higher education. That's one of the reasons tuition is so expensive. So we can fix these problems without raising taxes and fees, without slashing budgets, and it's all laid out, and the Independence Institute gave it a thumbs up and said the numbers work.
Governor, would you like to respond?
I'll just briefly. Look, there are groups that have particular ideological persuasions, and Ernest and Allison know this, Independence Institute, the Bell. You don't hear me citing these groups as objective. And so the fact that Independence Institute signed off on something, again, they do some good work, but that's not a sign of validity, nor would the Bell be. Look, you got to look at real hard facts, economic facts from unbiased news organizations, not the left or the right.
All right, thank you. Moving on to our next question, a big topic here in Colorado, public safety. Ernest, your question first is directed to Ms. Ganal. You have 2-minute response, by the way, Ms. Ganal.
All right, Regent Ganal, which of the gun control bills on the books in Colorado, including expanded background checks, limiting magazine size, requiring safe storage, or the red flag law, which of those would you work to repeal?
Well, let me say this. We have some of the most restrictive gun laws in the country right here in Colorado. They aren't working very well right now. Our murder rate is skyrocketing. We're #1 in auto theft, #2 in property crime, #1 in bank robberies, #2 in increase in fentanyl deaths. Crime and drugs are skyrocketing here. The gun problem is something that they've tried to address over and over here, and then they hypocritically give felons back guns in some legislation that they just passed. It makes no sense. A lot of their laws don't make any sense. The way we solve crime is by supporting our law enforcement officers, replacing the people on the parole board so that we have law and order folks who want to actually protect us and protect our citizens, and keep bad guys in jail. It's bad guys in jail. Hear that? Our recidivism rate is 4th highest in the nation. That means repeat offenders are doing most of the crimes. The bad bills that have been signed that makes it so easy to stay out of jail, and once you're in jail, get out of jail, are what's causing a lot of the problems in our state. Now, I say Colorado has become one of the most dangerous states in the country to be a kid. We've got fentanyl flowing across our southern border of Colorado. It's decriminalized now. It's making it almost impossible for law enforcement to deal with it. We've got school shootings. We have a mental health crisis among our children. Children's Hospital called for the first ever mental health crisis in Colorado. We are 7th in suicide rates for teens in the country and 5th highest in drug addiction for kids. That is a terrible record. And I know he's talked about fixing and doing a lot of things, making us the safest state. He's had 4 years. He wants a second term to fix the problems that he's created. It's not going to work. We've got to have a law and order governor in place that will have the backs of law enforcement and clean up our streets and stop crime from ruining our beautiful Colorado.
Ernest, go ahead.
Which of those laws would you seek to repeal?
I'd have to do a deeper dive, but I do question the constitutionality of the red flag law. I worry about that. We have a Second Amendment for a reason, and we have constitutional rights for a reason. But we've got a lot of work to do, mostly undoing bad bills. But first and foremost, I'm going to fund public safety fully and make sure that law enforcement has the funds, the tools, the resources to do their job.
All right, thank you. And Governor Polis, 30 seconds.
Look, fentanyl has been, is, and will be illegal as long as I'm governor. I signed a bipartisan, tough new penalties, one of the first states in the nation adding fentanyl penalties for pill presses, people that are poisoning our kids. And our plan to make Colorado one of the 10 safest states is investing in more and better law enforcement, supporting our police officers, increased criminal penalties, and of course, most importantly, prevention, better behavioral health, stopping crime before it even occurs.
And Ernest had a separate question for Governor Polis, and you have 2 minutes, Governor.
Governor, over the last couple of years, you signed legislation that's been hailed as...
You want to flip? Is your mic on? Just to make sure.
Sorry about that. Governor, over the last couple of years, you've signed lots of legislation hailed as national leading legislation in criminal justice reform. Since then, though, Colorado's crime rate has gone up, in some cases, some categories faster than the national rate. Did Colorado go too far with any of those bills?
So first of all, crime is up in Republican states, it's up in Democratic states, some of the top states in the nation. In fact, some of the bordering states, Arizona, New Mexico, have much higher, tragically, fentanyl death rates in Colorado. Felony penalties, we have it for 1 ounce and up. The truth is that the way that I approach every issue is I say, will this make Colorado safer? And there's times when making sure that kids or people sentenced to crime aren't connected to criminal gangs and have better diversion. There's times when you need to make sure that you lock them away from a long time, especially if they're dealing a drug that's killing people on our streets. So yes, I support tougher criminal penalties to make Colorado safer, but that alone is not a plan. A plan also means you have to have more and better prosecution. You need to make sure you have law enforcement to catch criminals. If you can't catch them, it doesn't matter what the penalty is. You also have to make sure you have better behavioral and mental health support services, including addiction recovery services to make sure that people can overcome their dependency on drugs or alcohol that lead to all kinds of crime. I'm sure many people here have had a loved one or friend, a family member that struggled with drug or alcohol abuse. Hopefully they got the help they needed. I have, in my extended family, they got the help they needed. We need to make sure that every Coloradan has access when they need it to be able to get themselves off a dependency of drug and alcohol.
So to answer his question, are you satisfied with the changes that were made and the criticism of your administration about they're too lenient?
I would
have
say
30 seconds.
Yeah, the two biggest criminal justice reform bills this last session were the public safety package, $160 million, more and better policing, law enforcement, youth intervention, and the bill that got tough on fentanyl, a great, strong bipartisan bill, one of the first felony penalties for pill presses in the nation, and additional felony penalties for possession over 1 ounce.
Ms. Ganal, respond. You have 30 seconds.
So since Jared decriminalized fentanyl, more people in Colorado have died of drug overdoses than we lost in 20 years of war in Afghanistan. It's pretty shocking. As I said, we are second highest in increase in fentanyl deaths in the U.S., and we just hit a 10-year drug trafficking record. This is under his watch. He's trying to fix the problems with the second term that he created. Don't let him do it.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next question. This is about character, ethics. Allison has the question, and it is directed to Governor Polis first. You have 2 minutes, Governor. Allison, go ahead.
Governor, in a tie vote, a bipartisan legislative committee failed to support an audit looking into your personal business interests and whether you personally profited from legislation you have signed. Some of the claims include you profiting from legalized sports betting and real estate holdings. First off, had the legislative committee agreed to move forward with the audit, would you have welcomed that audit? If not, why not? And what assurances do you have for voters tonight that your personal business interests do not conflict with your duties as governor the past 4 years or in years to come?
And first of all, briefly on the last question, again, fentanyl has been illegal, is illegal, and will be illegal as long as I'm governor. It will not be decriminalized in the state of Colorado. With regard to this question,
Jared,
that partisan complaint, well, I want to answer the question that Allison asked as well.
Fentanyl poisoning.
Yes, and it's always been a felony to sell any type amount of fentanyl to any kid in Colorado. And we need more and better policing to be able to catch anybody that does and lock them away. It is a penalty. It was a felony. It is a felony. And if I'm governor, it will be a
So
felony.
you
I hope
stand
it's a
on your
felony
record
to you
with
as well.
fentanyl? You think you're doing a good job?
That it remains a felony to sell to any kid in Colorado.
So, Jared,
I support that policy. I hope you join me in
We're
support of
second
that.
highest in fentanyl increase in deaths in the country. You think you're doing a good job with fentanyl?
This
It's
is a
poisoning
national
our
plague.
kids.
We're 26th, to be clear, in fentanyl deaths.
No, we
but
are
that's not
second
something to be
highest in the
proud of. We're
increase in fentanyl
26th
deaths in the
fentanyl
country.
deaths. Last time you said that, it was corrected on television by a fact checker who said we were
it's the problem.
26th. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but the truth matters. Look, that partisan complaint was dismissed. Coloradans know me. They know that, of course, I'm not actively engaged in business. I'm proud of my business success. Like my opponent, I've started several companies.
Let me
I've
just
created
interrupt you
hundreds
for
of
a second.
jobs.
Since we had an exchange
Yeah.
there, I want you to answer the question that Allison posed. You have 2 minutes to answer that. Please, with due respect, let's answer that question and move forward. Thank you.
That's what I was getting to. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for not taking away the time. That partisan complaint was dismissed, and I'm proud of my success in the private sector, created hundreds of jobs, started several successful companies, sold those companies before I entered public service, Pro Flowers, online flower provider, sold that the year before I ran for United States Congress. I'm not actively engaged in business. I have a blind trust. We try to set the bar high for making sure that Coloradans can have a confidence that I'm fighting for them, and I will always do the right thing for my fellow Coloradans. I'm focused on my job as governor, and I'm here to tackle the issues the most, because a lot of the issues that affect Colorado affect how successful Colorado businesses are. And one of those challenges we face is the high cost of housing. Businesses need to attract and retain the workforce that they need to succeed. People need a place to live. Businesses need to make sure that people that fill jobs can afford to live close to where the jobs are.
Would you welcome that audit, though, yes or no, if that, in fact, had gone through and you would have been asked to turn over that information?
Well, that particular partisan complaint, was just made before the election. Obviously, any audit we comply with. We're happy to. We do. Any ethics charges we comply with. There has been no findings against any ethical issues with my administration, just partisan rhetoric.
Thank you. Second question from Allison for Ms. Ganal. Again, ethics, character. Allison, go ahead.
Regent Ganal, you've said students identify as cats in Colorado schools, a claim several large school districts say is not happening. How does identifying as cats or dressing up as furries detract a teacher or the student from learning? What does it have to do with a school's ability to educate or students' ability to learn?
So, Allison, I've answered that. People can look it up. I'm against distractions in the classroom. We've got to teach our kids how to read, write, and do math. But I want to address the audit question, because in the last legislative session, there was a request to do an audit by Senator Rob Woodward on a no-bid deal you did to buy $90 million worth of COVID testing kits during the pandemic. And during that time, after we bought those testing kits, we experienced the highest death rate in the country in nursing homes in fall of 2020. Why did you think that was a good decision? And why didn't you agree to an audit? You, with the blessing of the legislature, turned down the audit.
So if I could just reply briefly,
Yes.
after 15 seconds. First of all, Colorado had the 9th lowest death rate in the country and one of the shortest shutdowns and strongest economic recoveries. Strong record on the COVID response, thanks to the people of Colorado stepping up.
Allison, would you like to follow up at all with Ms. Ganal?
Yes, some transgender youth say your comments are harmful. Do you have a response for them?
I have compassion and love for all kids. As those of you who know me know, I've fought for kids my whole life. In the last couple decades, I started 3 different nonprofits to help kids. Moms Fight Back, the Fight Back Foundation, the Bowa Buddies Foundation, and the Free to Be Coalition. I am so passionate for kids. I was on the CASA board. I love all kids, and I'm happy to have a one-on-one conversation with them. If I said anything hurtful, of course, I would absolutely apologize. That was never my intention. I love children, and I want them all to be successful and loved. And I have so much compassion for any of the kids that are struggling right now, whether it's reading, writing, mental health, gender issues, whatever the problems are, we've got to have compassion and love for all children.
Thank you. Governor, would you like to add anything? You have 30 seconds. If so, if not, we'll move on.
Look, I mean, these things, cats in the schools, these are distractions. We need a governor that's going to focus on improving our public schools, reducing class size, attracting and retaining the very best teachers, improving our training programs, making sure that we have a great school for every kid. That's what I've been focused on as governor. No distractions, delivering free preschool and kindergarten. I'm going to continue to work to make Colorado schools the best in the nation.
Thank you very much. We will move on. Ernest has the next question regarding immigration. Ernest, go ahead. And your first question is directed towards Ms. Ganal. You have 2 minutes.
And Regent Ganal and Governor Polis, we're going to ask you both the same question. We'll give you each 2 minutes and then see if either of you want to respond or if we've covered it. Regent Ganal, the governors of Florida, Texas, and Arizona have recently sent thousands of migrants to New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and even Martha's Vineyard. There's been speculation that Vail or Aspen might be next. What's your reaction to these moves? If governors do send immigrants to Colorado while you're governor, how would you deal with it?
Well, I would deal with it with care and compassion and make sure they're cared for when they get here. I think we've got to bring light to what's happening at the southern border of our country, which is also affecting the southern border of Colorado. Fentanyl is flowing across our state. And Jared, when he was debating Walker Stapleton, said he would never make us a sanctuary state, and he did. And it's one of the key reasons that ICE agents and law enforcement can't collaborate and work together to stop the flow of that poison into our state. And it is killing our children. You guys, we have to wake up. It is the top thing I hear from law enforcement. And they say their hands are tied for the most part. They'll arrest a drug dealer and they're out of jail within hours. It is destroying our communities. We've got to take this head on. We've got to cancel our status as a sanctuary state, make sure that ICE agents and law enforcement can do their job, and we've got to make any amount of fentanyl a felony, period, and put drug dealers in jail for a very long time.
I want to follow up real quick, Ernest, if you don't mind. You say that you would welcome or do what you needed to do to deal with that problem if it were to arise here in Colorado. Would that be something that the state needs to fund, or do you believe this would be an unfunded mandate for local communities depending on where it goes? How would you see dealing with that from a financial standpoint to deal with migrants being shipped to Colorado? We have a minute.
Well, we'll do whatever it takes to take care of those folks and make sure that they are welcome here, cared for, and we have a lot of compassion. But, at the end of the day, we've got to deal with a border crisis that's happening right now. And Joe Biden was in our state last week, and I wonder if Jared had a chance to talk to him about the effect his bad border policy is having on the children of Colorado and the fentanyl issue here, and the ability to just traffic drugs right across I-25 into Colorado. That's my priority. As a mom on a mission, like I say, kids are my first priority. If our kids are not okay, nothing is okay. And right now, they are killing themselves. And in a mental health crisis, they're getting addicted to drugs, they're not reading at grade level. Things are not good for our children here. That is my priority. I will make sure that we get to work day one on fixing those problems and securing our southern Colorado border.
Governor, go ahead to the initial question if you need it repeated. I think you understand the crux there.
Yeah, so look, Colorado welcomed 2,000 Afghan refugees, men and women who worked with our troops on the 20-year mission, translators and others, successfully integrating them into our community in Colorado. 500 Ukrainians who fled Ukraine under the Russian attacks. We even got, just recently, 9 Ukrainian lions from the Odessa Zoo who settled at the Wild Animal Sanctuary in Keensburg. Look, we're happy to do our part to help. Of course, we need to make sure that we can support our workforce and make sure that we can continue to provide a great opportunity for every Coloradan to succeed in a Colorado for all. Whether your family's been here thousands of years from our Native American brothers and sisters, whether your family has been here from the early Spanish settlers. I'm a first-generation Coloradan. My parents moved here in 1970 from New York. I was born a few years later. Really, everybody can thrive in our great state. I would also add that we work closely with ICE, with the FBI, to apprehend criminals, whether they're illegal, in which case they get deported, or whether they're legal, in which case they're prosecuted here. And we're going to continue to have strong relationships with our federal law enforcement agencies. At the end of the day, Colorado is not a border state. Folks in southern Colorado know this. You can drive back and forth to New Mexico. We're not, the federal government controls those state borders. Does the federal government need to step up and do a better job on our southern border? Absolutely. Whether it's the illegal flow of people, of drugs, of items that are escaping tariffs, we absolutely need high-tech, better security on the southern border. I've joined bipartisan calls for the President and Congress to take action, and I will continue to as your governor.
30 seconds, Ms. Ganal, if you'd like.
Again, I'm going to say we're number 1 in auto theft, number 2 in property crime, number 4 in recidivism, which is repeat offenders, number 1 in cocaine use. Colorado is not well right now. I love this state. We've got to fix these problems. I don't want Colorado to be the drug capital of the U.S. And the southern border of our United States is what's bringing the drugs into Colorado. So I would suggest he has a very stern conversation, if he does believe in border security, with the President of the United States, Joe Biden. Make him change his mind.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next question. Allison, it's about growth resources. This will be directed to the governor. Allison, go ahead, and Governor Polis, you have 2 minutes.
All right, both of you will answer this question, so we'll be 2 minutes each. Colorado's outdoors is certainly a big draw for people moving here. How do we balance protecting these spaces as well as our natural resources and accommodating the needs of this growing population?
Look, Colorado Outdoors is first and foremost about our quality of life. It's about fun. Who among us has not, been to Pikes Peak or hiked in our local parks? We've added 2 wonderful new state parks, one down the road in Trinidad, Fisher's Peak State Park. Hope you get to check it out. One on the Dotsero exit off of Highway 70, Sweetwater Lake State Park. We've also opened access to 500,000 acres of school trust land to hunters and wildlife viewers and others that had previously been public land in our school trust that you were not allowed on. When I was elected, I come with a fundamental value that we want to experience our outdoors in Colorado. So we opened up 500,000 acres. We're going to work to open up even more acres to visitation and across our great state. This is a big reason why we live here. I worked on, and my opponent mentioned President Biden was in town. He was here working for declaring the national monument in Camp Hale, preserving the legacy of our brave veterans of the 10th Mountain Division. It was so wonderful to be joined by 2 of our surviving World War II veterans at that event. I introduced that bill in Congress more than a decade ago. And while I hope it goes into law, it's a strong step to protect our areas, 10 Mile, Camp Hale, and continue to move forward with making sure that Colorado remains the very best state in the nation to live, to work, to play, to start a business, and to retire.
Ms. Ganal, you have 2 minutes. Same question. If you need it repeated, Allison, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm good. You okay? Go ahead. Okay. Well, I love Colorado. I love spending time outdoors and taking my twins hiking or going skiing, fishing. It's pretty impossible to get up to the mountains these days because I-70 still isn't fixed. It's a boondoggle. It takes hours to get up there to enjoy our beautiful Colorado. But what's really hurting the families of Colorado and preventing them from enjoying the outdoors is 16% inflation since Biden took office in Colorado. That is number 1 in the nation. And he's going to argue about what the number is, but we are the highest inflation in the country right now. It is costing families $11,700 more a year to live, work, and raise a family here. That's almost $1,000 a month. How on earth are our young people and our senior citizens and young families, how are they supposed to go up to the mountains and go skiing if they can't afford gas, groceries, or school supplies? It is not fair to the young families, to the senior citizens, to the people in Colorado who want to enjoy the outdoors. So how do we fix that? Well, we stop passing taxes and fees like crazy. We stop growing the government. We stay out of people's lives, especially small business owners who have been suffocated with mandates, quarantines. He kept schools, churches, small businesses and sports shut down and kept marijuana dispensaries open during COVID. And we paid a huge price for that. 27% more small businesses closed in the first half of this year than previous years. And the current CU Business Index that just came out last week said that small business owners are very pessimistic about the future here. That doesn't bode well for our economy. We've got to address inflation. We've got to do something to put more money back into the people's pockets of Colorado. And I have a good plan to do that, to go to zero income tax. His plan would cost $46 more a gallon in gas if he goes with carbon taxes like he said he wanted to do to get to zero income tax. That's not realistic.
Thank you very much. Governor, would you like to add anything? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'll just say the one thing that my opponent was in charge of, University of Colorado, fees cost for students went up 22% during her time there. Does that mean that she deserved a promotion or not?
Yep.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. This is from Ernest about renewable energy. And Ernest, the first question would be directed to Ms. Ganal.
Okay, Regent Ganal, you said that the governor is going too far, too fast on greenhouse gas reduction. How far and how fast would a Ganal administration go?
Well, thank you for asking. I mean, the most important thing we can do in Colorado is produce clean energy so that we do have clean air, clean land, clean water, and we do it better than anybody on the planet right here in Colorado. So I want to get our industry back to work. Also, solar and wind are not held to the same reliability standards as natural gas, nuclear, and coal. I'd like to see solar and wind held to the same reliability standards so that the lives and health of Coloradans are never put in jeopardy. We can also look at nuclear, which a proposal for a study on nuclear went through the legislature and it was turned down. It's one of the most clean, efficient energy sources out there now. So if we're truly serious about an all-of-the-above energy approach and clean energy, then we've got to make nuclear part of that conversation as well. Listen, I care about the single mom who has to figure out how to get to work and to daycare and to get to buy groceries and can't take public transit or can't afford an electric vehicle. How do we help her? How do we help her have low energy costs, low gasoline costs? That's where my heart is. It's with helping the young families and the people of Colorado be able to stay here and afford to live, because right now that's not the case. More and more people are having to move out of our state because it's become so unaffordable, mostly because of 16% inflation since Biden took office and $11,700 more a year to live here and raise a family and work here.
Governor, would you like to respond at all? You have 30 seconds. If so, not. We have a specific question for you from Ernest.
Yeah, I would just say, look, Drake has spewed its last fumes into the air above Colorado Springs. It's not just about air quality. Look at what that great space will be for the revitalization of downtown Colorado Springs. What a blessing that we can rely on lower cost wind and solar energy rather than subsidizing coal. Colorado is vulnerable as long as we rely on natural gas and coal. Look at the Texas storms last year that cost Black Hill and Colorado Springs utility ratepayers hundreds of dollars just because a storm in Texas sent natural gas prices spiking. I'm going to protect Coloradans from those kind of volatilities in commodities markets and protect ratepayers.
And Ernest, you have a specific question for the governor on renewable energy. Go ahead.
Governor, you set a goal of 100% renewable energy in Colorado by 2040. How much extra should Coloradans expect to pay in utilities to achieve this goal?
Well, the right question is how much less will Coloradans pay when we achieve the goal of 100% renewable energy? Well, again, it's simple math, Ernest. Coal power is the most expensive form of power on the grid, 8 to 10 cents per kilowatt hour. New solar is 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Doesn't take a genius, doesn't even take a calculator to know that that means a 2/3 reduction in rates. Tri-State, which powers many of our electric co-ops in the state, was able to reduce their rates 8%. They call it the green dividend for moving from high-cost coal to low-cost renewable energy. As chair of the bipartisan Western Governors Association, along with Mark Gordon of Wyoming, my vice chair, we identified our initiative as the heat beneath our feet, how we can better utilize geothermal energy for passive heating and cooling, and also for geothermal electric. I was just at Colorado Mesa University in Grand Junction. 70% of their buildings are heated with geothermal energy. It saves their students about 2% on tuition. CSU Pueblo, first campus in the state and one of the first campuses in the entire country, 100% renewable energy. Again, reducing costs for students, passing those savings along. So the sooner we can move off of 8 to 10 cent per kilowatt power to 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour power, the more Coloradans will save faster and the more energy independence that we will achieve so that a Texas storm doesn't force you to pay $300.
Ms. Ganal, you wanted to respond. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. First of all, you obviously don't pay your heating bills at home because they're out of control right now.
Because of natural gas, entirely because of natural gas.
Oh my gosh,
That's the
Jared.
entire reason. That's it.
Right.
Natural
okay.
gas.
Let's
That's what
fact check
spiked.
that, guys.
Fact check it. Natural gas has gone up.
So
It's simple.
your idea to go to wind and solar is great, but you realize it's based on all the subsidies. It's also intermittent, unreliable power. There's no widespread use of battery storage, and it's expensive, and there are major supply chain issues. It takes about 10 years to build transmission lines and costs over $1 million per mile to build transmission lines to faraway locations for wind and solar. We need 24/7 baseload power.
Governor, would you like to respond?
No, I was just going to say, look, I mean, natural gas prices have spiked. Europe here, part of it is the war in Ukraine. Not only is there that one-time surcharge that you're being forced to absorb from the Texas storms, but your bills are also going to go up this December, this winter, because of spikes in natural gas. We need low-cost, renewable energy, energy independence, reliable, in Colorado to be able to save people money and make Colorado more competitive. That's why Rocky Mountain Steel built the largest behind-the-meter solar project in the country to lock in those low energy rates to manufacture steel at a low cost and be competitive in the global marketplace.
Governor, thank you. Move on to the next question. Allison will deliver this. First to Governor Polis. There's a number of ballot initiatives for you to decide over the course of the November election, and there's a couple we want to focus on, 121 and one. Anyway, go ahead, Allison. I'm sorry.
All right, so let's start with Proposition 121, which asks, should the state income tax be reduced from 4.55 to 4.40? Do you support this measure, and how would you make up for any lost revenue as a result?
Governor, you're up.
I'll be voting for that initiative, and it'll likely come out of surplus funds, so it won't force any cuts in the budget, unlike my opponent's reckless initiative to immediately move the tax to zero and devastate our schools and law enforcement.
Ms. Ganal, 121, your comment?
Yes, of course I would support that since I want to take us to zero income tax, and I have a plan to do that over 8 years that works very well for the people of Colorado. And public safety, again, will be my highest priority. The first dollar I spend as governor will be on having the backs of law enforcement and making sure we clean up the crime tsunami that Jared Polis is responsible for in his first term.
Okay, Allison, and tell our crowd, 123, what is that comprised of?
Right, so we'd like to know how you both would vote on Proposition 123 to set aside millions of dollars in Tabor refunds to affordable housing. And do you believe that this is even an issue that the Colorado legislature should address, or should it be mostly left up to local governments?
Governor, you can address that first.
So the Colorado legislature did step up using American Rescue Act funds, about $400 million for housing. This is not a problem that money alone will fix. It's a problem with allowing housing to be built. I look forward to my next term to reducing paperwork and burdens to be able to create more housing faster across our state. I look forward to reading that initiative and making my decision accordingly. Again, I'm skeptical that more money will solve the problem, but I'll honor the will of the Colorado voters.
Ms. Ganal?
Well, Tabor refunds are very, very popular in Colorado, as evidenced by Jared moving the deadline or the Tabor refund checks up before the election and not mentioning Tabor Colorado cashbacks. So every voter would get a $750 check right before the election. But I do believe affordable housing is one of the key issues we're facing here in Colorado. I would love to see us focus more on innovation and relaxing regulations. 1/4 of the cost of new housing is regulatory in Colorado. So if we can come up with some ways to incentivize local municipalities to relax some of those regulations, build more housing, there's lots of cool things going on in housing too, whether it's co-housing, community housing, tiny houses, modulars. We've got a great new development down south here for veterans using modular housing, which has been a big issue for our veterans. So I think we can innovate. I don't think the Colorado voters will approve giving their Tabor refunds back to make such a tiny dent in the housing issue. We've got 225,000 houses that were down in Colorado. So why is this happening? One of the key reasons this is happening is inflation and having business non-friendly practices here and driving business and industry out of our state. That's why 27% more businesses, small businesses, closed in the first half of this year. So we've got to do everything we can to address inflation. 16% since Biden took office, the highest inflation in the country right here in Colorado, $11,700 more to work, live, and raise a family. That includes housing. So my heart is with the senior citizens who can't afford to live here anymore, the young people who can't afford rent or a mortgage, the young family that can't afford to move into a bigger house right now. That has to be a huge priority as governor.
Governor, would you like to respond to that?
I do. I just want to say why it's happening, why housing prices have gone up. It's because Colorado is the best place to live in the nation. People and businesses are flocking here from Texas, from California, from New York, because of our great quality of life, our low taxes, our great schools, our amazing outdoors, and one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question. Allison, you're going to have this question as well about the divisive issue that is abortion. Allison, go ahead. And this first is for Ms. Ganal. You have 2 minutes.
Regent Ganal, you've said if elected, you would work to roll back the legislation that was recently passed on abortion. Colorado voters have consistently voted against more restrictions on abortion. Why do you believe more restrictions are needed?
Well, my journey's been a bumpy one to having my 4 kids. It's taken a lot of time. Obviously, I'm a little older and I have younger kids, and I've had several miscarriages along the way. And I have so much compassion for any woman facing this difficult decision. And I want to bring common sense back to Colorado, and abortion should be rare and safe. But what's not common sense is a radical bill that was signed without the will of the people of Colorado, without a vote of the people of Colorado, that allows abortion up until the baby's birth date, in the final weeks of pregnancy. And I think we can do better in Colorado. No, I did rip up that disgusting bill because of late-term abortion. I do not believe that's who we are in Colorado. And I want to make sure that I don't divide us anymore. So I've made a pledge that any changes to abortion law will go to a vote of the people of Colorado. I will not sign it. I will put it back to a vote of the people of Colorado to make sure this issue does not divide us anymore. But we've also got to make adoption more affordable and easier. Right now, it's 3 years and $30,000 to adopt a child in Colorado. We've also have 1,500 kids in our foster care system. I mentioned I was on the board of CASA, court-appointed special advocates, and really got a deep understanding of the issues our foster care system is facing right now. We have 1,500 kids who need homes right now. That's an issue we can all agree on, and we can come together and work on. And finally, I am so passionate about helping young women. I launched a company with my older daughter, She Factor, which helps young women in their 20s launch a life that they love. I also started Moms Fight Back, a charity, about 10 years ago, and I'm so proud we got bipartisan legislation passed to educate court folks or people working in the courts on domestic violence, child abuse, and incest so they can make better decisions for children. So I will always support women. I understand it's a very difficult issue, and I don't want to divide Colorado anymore. I want to bring us together on it.
Thank you. And we have a specific question for Governor Polis. Allison, go ahead.
So, Governor, you signed this legislation. Polls show Coloradans want access to abortion. Those same polls show Coloradans support some limits. Would you sign legislation putting some restrictions on abortion later in pregnancy?
Well, first, my heart goes out to my opponent for her own, personal struggles in reproductive health. Marlon and I have a dear friend where they just lost a baby after 5 months. It's really hard for anybody. I fundamentally believe that the government should not make women's health care decisions. Nothing could be more intimate, more challenging, and more difficult than the decision that a woman faces. We need to make sure that that's between a woman and her doctor. Let's be clear here. My opponent said she would rip up the law that protects Coloradans from having police and district attorneys go after them for choosing to end a pregnancy. Coloradans have voted down ballot measures banning abortion 5 times in recent years. And it's really important that we make sure that, especially in this day and age, when Roe versus Wade has gone away, my opponent celebrated the repeal of Roe versus Wade. For better or worse, it's now up to states. I want to make sure that Colorado remains a state where the government and bureaucrats don't insert themselves into that very private and difficult conversation between a woman and her doctor.
Ms. Ganal, go ahead.
Again, I will put that to a vote of the people of Colorado. And yes, I do think it's terrible to abort a baby in the final weeks of pregnancy. on their,
What
on
did
their
the, what did the
birthday.
ripping up mean? I mean, would you
It
put that
meant
to vote
I
people
do
to rip
not
it up,
agree
or would
with
you rip it
late-term
up?
abortion, and I do believe Roe versus Wade should be a state's decision, and Colorado has spoken. You passed a law without the will of the voters, and I would like to go back to the voters of Colorado to find a compromise. But also, if you care so much about women's health care choices, how come you fired so many women health care workers because they didn't feel comfortable getting a vaccination during COVID?
Governor, you choose to respond.
Well, look, Colorado remains a state where, we have friends that haven't been vaccinated and friends who have. I certainly encourage it. I've been
Did
vaccinated.
they lose
I
their
just got
job by you?
The Omicron.
Did you fire them?
No, state workers, they had to, there was a period of time during the midst of the pandemic where they either got tested or they had the vaccine.
You either believe in women's health care choices or not.
Well, I am opposed, and I have been opposed, and I have been, to vaccine requirements. I even
Then why didn't you put your foot down? You're in charge. You're the
Because
governor.
it's not about rhetoric. It's about encouraging people to do the right thing. I bet there's people here who didn't get vaccinated. Is
Jared,
anybody
I've met
forced to
with
get
many
vaccinated?
women
No.
healthcare
Have you been
workers who are
vaccinated?
very
Have you been
frustrated.
vaccinated?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and thank you for agreeing with me that we shouldn't force others to get
That's my
vaccinated.
own personal decision.
Okay, we're running out of time here. I want to move on to one final question. We got time before our closing statements. And this is from Ernest, and it is directed at Governor Polis. Go ahead, Ernest. I'm sorry.
Governor Polis, what are some issues that the National Democratic Party and the Biden administration that you disagree with the direction they're going in?
Well, my goodness. I mean, there's a lot of problems with both parties at the national level. I believe in good ideas from the left, from the right. It doesn't matter. I think it'll take both sides to solve the big problems. We talked about immigration briefly. It takes some of the things that both sides talks about. Republicans talk about better border security. We've got to secure the border. Democrats talking about making sure that there's some pathway to normalization and legal work for people that are part of our communities, that are here, that we need in our workforce. We need to pair those two together and get it done. I'd like to see the federal government balance the budget. I supported a balanced budget amendment when I was in Congress. Colorado requires a balanced budget. And by the way, in my time as governor, we of course balanced the budget, but we also increased reserves. We doubled reserves from 7% to 15%, one of the healthiest budgets in the entire country, record rainy day fund, record reserves. I would like to see Congress, and both parties are part of the problem, step up and balance the budget nationally.
And we have a specific question for Ms. Ganal. Ernest?
Regent Ganal, I'm going to ask kind of the same question. What are some things that the National Republican Party, some positions that that party takes that you disagree with?
Well, right now, it's hard to think about anything but what's happening with the Democrats in control. We have skyrocketing inflation, our border's in crisis, we're in an international crisis, almost on the verge of World War III, and our kids aren't learning how to read, write, or do math. There are so many issues we've got to tackle right now that I'm focused on how to fix those. As far as my own party, I'm not a party person. I'm a mom on a mission. I'm all about fixing the issues that Colorado can come together on, like crime and the cost of living and our kids, getting our energy industry back to work, supporting our farmers and ranchers, making sure that we are able to live, work, and raise a family here in Colorado. That's what I'm focused on.
No positions that the National Republicans are taking that you
I'm
disagree
focused on
with?
Colorado. That's what I'm focused on. And we've got a lot of problems here we've got to fix. And it doesn't have anything to do with party. It has to do with our kids and our economy and crime and our farmers and our ranchers. The list goes on and on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Allison, Ernest, thank you for your questions. We got enough time now for our closing statements per the coin flip at the beginning. Governor Polis will begin. Governor, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you, Ernest. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, timekeepers. Thank you, attendees. Thank you to my opponent for joining me at this debate. Look, this is a fundamentally decision about moving Colorado forward. I don't even recognize the dystopia version of wherever she lives. Colorado is the best state in the country to live. And by the way, one of the jobs of governor is cheerleader. Look at what we're saying. How good will my opponent be in promoting the great state of Colorado? I have a track record of not just saying things, but of getting them done. Preschool and kindergarten, reducing rates by 20% in the exchange, capping the cost of insulin. You know, whether you agree with them or not, moving towards renewable energy to save people money on electricity and preventing natural gas from causing a surcharge for you. And what I'm telling you that I'm going to get done in the next 4 years is Colorado will be one of the 10 safest states. We're currently 26th. That's not good enough. We need to make sure we invest in law enforcement, have tougher criminal penalties, and most importantly, crime prevention to prevent crimes before they occur. and we're going to get it done. We also want to make sure that we reduce housing costs across Colorado, make sure that we have less costs associated with development and applications to get more housing close to where jobs are, to reduce traffic, and improve our quality of life. We're going to continue to help people keep more of their hard-earned money and save you money, to set Colorado kids up for success no matter where you live, to protect families from gun violence and crime, protect our blue skies, our water, and our public lands, and of course to protect our freedom, including upholding a woman's right to choose. I am so proud to be your governor. I am honored every day to roll up my sleeve, work late into the night to make Colorado an even more amazing place. And if you give me the chance to keep serving, I'll show you that Colorado's best days are still ahead. I'm Jared Polis, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ganal, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Jared wants you to re-elect him to try to fix the problems that he created. Polis is the problem. Crime, drugs, inflation. When you vote, hold him accountable. And when I'm governor, I expect you to do the same with me. I'm a problem solver, not a politician, but I will get the job done. I've been blessed to live the American dream right up the road in Monument. I'm now a mom on a mission to make sure that our kids and grandkids can have the same opportunity that I did, that many of you did. My family means everything to me, and so does our home, Colorado. I will not stand by and watch our beautiful state, my kids' state, destroyed. As your governor, I'll put law and order leadership in charge. I'll clean up our streets, keep repeat offenders in jail, cancel our sanctuary status, and block the flow of fentanyl into Colorado. I'll have the backs of law enforcement, always. And under Polis, now we have the highest inflation rate in the nation due to his tax and spend policies. As governor, I'll unleash Colorado's economy and put more money back into your pocket. I'll take us to zero income tax, cutting red tape to make housing affordable again, producing good, clean energy again. I'm a mom on a mission to make sure our kids can learn to read and write with common sense curriculum, that we address the mental health crisis that they are facing. We must pay teachers more. We must get more money back into the classroom. I will go all in on school choice, make sure that the funding follows the families, give power back to parents. I'm offering a brighter future here in Colorado, this state that I love so much. Big, bold ideas like I've talked about here to make it affordable again, safe again, free again. And Jared, this is an election, not an auction. You can't buy our vote with the $24 million in fake TV ads telling us everything's just fine. You can't run from this terrible record. When you get your ballot this week, hold him accountable. I'm Heidi Ganal, a mom on a mission. I would humbly ask for your vote. Let's turn this thing around together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Heidi Ganal, thank you. Governor Polis, thank you for joining us. Allison Zimmerman, thank you. Ernest Lunning, appreciate it. A final reminder that ballots go out on Monday. Stay with News 5 on air and online for all your election coverage leading up to the election on November 8th. And again, we want to thank the Gazette and El Pomar for co-sponsoring this debate with News 5. For all of us here at News 5, have a pleasant evening. I'm Rob Quirk. Good night.